So I've just come back from a trip to London, and during that trip I shot my first roll through my newest camera, the Yashica Electro 35 MC. I mentioned this camera a few times on this channel, but I was really excited to actually use it. It's a rangefinder camera, very compact, made in Japan in the 1970s, and it's the more user-friendly model in the Electro range. It shoots, of course, 35mm film. It has an aperture priority mode, so it selects the shutter speed according to what aperture you input. These speeds vary from 4 seconds to 1/500th of a second. And it uses a range focusing system, which is why I use the term rangefinder loosely. This in essence means you have to determine how far your subject is in meters or in feet and base your focusing on that. As you adjust your focus, a needle in the viewfinder moves up or down and points to one of the symbols. The lens is a 40mm f2.8 Yashica DX. There is a light meter which is situated inside the lens filter ring, and it has a wide range of ISOs that can be set between 25 and 1000. It's got the quietest shutter I have ever heard, and it takes incredibly sharp photos. As previously mentioned, I took this camera with me to London, loaded it up with some lomography color negative 800 film, which was expired, so I metered it at 400 ISO. I'm not at all used to using a rangefinder camera or zone focusing for that matter, and I'm definitely not used to not having a light meter and using a fully manual camera. Now, this camera does take a battery for the light meter, but that light meter is only for the camera to determine which shutter it should use based on what aperture you've selected. So there's no light meter in the viewfinder, for example, telling you whether or not your shot is over or underexposed. So I packed my bag, which you can see in my last video, and I went to the airport, which is where I took my first picture, which is this one of my girlfriend at the gate. I'm actually somewhat impressed. Now, obviously this photo is underexposed, the shadows are very grainy, and it's got quite a green tint. I believe that's just because of how the film was expired. There's some color shifts in this film, but it's not really the end of the world. I am, as I was saying, impressed by how sharp the front subject is, my girlfriend here. Now, I wasn't f2.8 to try and get as much light in as possible. It was still slightly underexposed, which is why the planes are blurry because of the depth of field. f2.8, which a part of me would have liked the planes to also been in focus, maybe shot f8 or something, but obviously because of the lighting conditions, I could not do that. But with all that being said, the actual subject is ridiculously sharp. I'm quite happy with my focusing. This is the first time ever doing it, and I just sort of did it and hoped for the best, and it turned out really well. And I do quite like this picture. It's quite atmospheric, and it set us up for our trip. Once arriving at London Gatwick, I got this next picture here, once again at a gate with a plane in the background. Now, like the last one, this one is a bit underexposed. Could have done with a few more stops, but I was worried that I was going to blow out the highlights in the background, and to be fair, I probably would have. So there was not much I could do with the lighting conditions at this airport, which weren't very good. But I like this picture a lot. I like the composition. I like the fact that the gate is empty. You can see the plane in the background. It's a proper typical airport travel photo, but I'm very happy. And that was frame 2. Once again, the focusing is fine in this one, but it was a bit easier. Last photo with a plane in it is this one here, which I took at Gatwick car park. The plane was flying right above me, so I just sort of quickly randomly took a picture, which is why the composition is not amazing, but I do still like this picture. It's got a nice vibe, feels a bit retro, and I do like the signs at the bottom. I probably next time would try and get the plane in one of those signs or try and get an interesting composition like that, but for the time being, I still think this picture is fine. Once we arrived at our accommodation, we relaxed for the first day because we had a really early flight, but the second day we went into London itself, and we started in South Kensington, which is where I took this picture. Very happy with this one. I think the colors are amazing. The focusing, once again, I managed. As I was saying earlier, it's a bit easier because there's no subject right in front of the camera, so I was probably on infinity, to be completely honest. But I think the colors came out amazing. It's still very sharp. However, the picture I took just after that, which is this one here, I think is a lot better. I think the composition was much more thought through. I think I was probably on f11, even maybe f16, which is why everything's in focus, which is nice. I'm happy with the positioning of the car. I think it complements the frame well. I love the colors. I do like the atmosphere. However, it's a bit annoying that there's this sign on the lamppost. I think it ruins a bit the sort of perfect vibe. However, I'm still very happy with this picture. I've been trying to take more photos of classic cars at the moment. Now, I know it's a bit cliche on film, but it's something I've always loved. And in London, there's so many amazing cars, especially in that area of London. So the first one I found here was this Mercedes. Now, part of being a rangefinder is that the actual viewfinder is slightly to the right of the lens. Now, most of the time I did remember this because when you're obviously framing an image, you do have to adjust where you're holding your camera because what you're seeing is not exactly where the lens is. But on this picture, I obviously forgot, and that is why the Mercedes logo is slightly cropped out, which is a bit annoying because I think it makes the photo a bit awkward. But once again, I'm very happy with the focusing. This one was a lot closer than my other pictures, so I think I nailed that. I just think it's got a nice sort of dreamy touch to it, and it's just a nice composition, and definitely happy. I think I'm getting a bit better at photographing cars at the moment, and you'll see that definitely in my next video. After that, we went into Kensington Gardens, which is this amazing park in the center of London. It was a really, really nice sunny day, so everyone was out. It was a great atmosphere, and there was a typical vintage ice cream van. We get loads of these in the UK, but I thought it was really amazing because this young kid went up to get an ice cream dressed head to toe like he was straight from the 40s. I mean, he looked like a character in the Humphrey Bogart film. And it just made this amazing picture, this kid in this sort of trench coat and hat going up to this very vintage looking ice cream van. It looked like something from the 50s. So I got this picture here, which I'm very, very happy with. It's just quite a cute picture. I think the focusing is slightly off. The kid's a bit blurry and the composition could have been a bit better. I just didn't really want to hang around too long taking this picture. And also everything was going really quickly, so I just had to quickly shoot this picture, but definitely one of my favorite photos. It looks like a movie scene. The colors came out really well as well. I was probably on f11 for this photo. After that, I explored more parts of the park, and this is when I took my favorite photo from this roll, which is this one right here of an ice cream vendor, another one. I'm so happy with this picture. I think it's so Wes Anderson, almost Stanley Kubrick even kind of vibes, or something from The Great Gatsby, I don't know. It's just such a nice composition. I think the colors came out really well. I think the focusing I did fine. Once again, I was probably on infinity or maybe just under, but yeah, really, really happy with this picture. The good thing about London is that there's so many little quirky random things like this, that there's so many pictures you can take, which in cities like Edinburgh, which is a bit smaller, you can't always find. So it was definitely nice to be able to find these little scenes all the time. But yeah, going back to that picture, I think the framing's well done. He's in the middle, as obviously you can see. The one thing I would change personally is having less people in the top of the image, so it's like an empty park. But obviously I can't do that. So I'm very happy with this image, which reminds me a lot of the film poster for last year at Marienbad. After walking around, taking a few more basic pictures of the park, which I'm not gonna get too into, we took the tube back to the centre of London. We'd been there all day, so it was time to head back. And whilst Natalie was walking down these massive, massive set of stairs that they had in this station, I snapped this picture here. And I like it a lot. I think it wasn't underexposed and the lighting wasn't very good either, so maybe the camera selected a better shutter speed. In fact, it definitely did, because if you actually look at her moving, it's slightly blurry. So it was obviously a slightly slower shutter speed, but it works well. I think the colors are nice, the atmosphere is nice. Once again, I like the framing and the composition, the leading lines going down the stairs. Just a nice little action picture. It's one of those pictures that seems casual and relaxed, but also tells a little story, which I've always trying to get. And this and a few of the other pictures are me trying to get a bit more into street photography, which is something that's not really in my comfort zone, not something I'm very good at, to be honest. So these are some of my earliest attempts. So we got off at Leicester Square, walked down to Trafalgar Square, where I thought I'd get a few portraits of Natalie. And these are some of my favorite photos of her. I love how the film interpreted the colors in this one. It's very blue, but it's just such a nice picture. Definitely reminds me of the pictures my parents used to show me when they were my age, going on holiday trips, and they'd shoot on their film cameras. Definitely a photo I want to print out and put in a photo album so I can show people in 20 years. It's just got a nice nostalgic holiday vibe to it. Yeah, I'm just really happy with these images. Also very happy with the focusing. I don't know if you noticed, I've said that a few times, but I think most of the focusing in these images have been really good. And I'm just really happy with that because some of these weren't necessarily the easiest. And as I mentioned a few times, I've never done anything like this before. I'm used to using SLRs. After that, we went down to Embankment and started walking back towards Waterloo Station, where I just felt like I had to get these touristy pictures of Parliament and London Eye. I hated myself for taking them. I used to live in London, so I used to see these all the time, but I just thought I had to, once again, for the photo album, sort of nostalgic quality to it. And yeah, I think they turned out fine. They're not amazing, the composition's not great. These have been taken a million times on different cameras, so nothing too crazy to say about these, but they're just sort of fun pictures that I took. So with all that being said, I'm very amazed by two things. One, my focusing, but two, the sharpness of this lens. I do think the fact that it was so sunny and I was often on f16, f11, f8 helped obviously with that. If I was on f2.8 a lot of the time, it might not have been that good. But yeah, really happy with that. I'm also very impressed with the lens itself. These pictures are super sharp, especially the ones, for example, of Natalie in Trafalgar Square. I think there's no difference between shots on the Yashica and shots of bigger SLR cameras like my Canon A1, for example. There really is a very little difference. And when you think of how small the Yashica is, I was just completely blown away when I got my scans back. Overall, I'm super happy. It's rare that I get some gear and I'm blown away by it. Normally when I get new photos back from a new camera, I'm happy and I'm impressed, but this is the first time I thought, wow, I really wasn't expecting that. And whilst it's obviously not a Leica level camera, I think for the price, for the size, for how relatively easy it is to use, it's just an amazing camera. Definitely going to be using it a lot more, and it's 100% going to become my new travel camera. It literally did fit in my trousers pocket. That's where I kept it most of the time. It also feels well built. I didn't mention this at the beginning, but it really feels really sturdy. It's just this really solid little camera, and it's so sharp. And yeah, with the picture quality being that good, there's really no flaws I can find with this camera. Definitely recommend it. With all that being said, that was my first roll with not only the Yashica, with rangefinder cameras as a whole, and I'm very happy and very impressed. I was always sort of negative about rangefinders without properly using them, but having used this one, I was so happy with the results, and I'm very excited to run a bunch of different films through it to get the results. And you will definitely be seeing this camera again. But with all that being said, that was my trip to London. That was my trip with the Yashica camera, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you subscribe. Leave a comment if you've got one, tell me what you think about it, or if you've got a similar small rangefinder, let me know what you think about it. Leave a like, and I will see you next Saturday for a new video.